Next up is Brian Donnelly. He is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at LivePerson, and he's going to tell us all about how luxury footwear brand Tamara Mellon creates personalized commerce experiences with conversational AI and messaging. I love it. I feel like we're in the future. We pretty much are, so this is great. I just love that we're having a conversation about AI messaging. Brian, would love to hear.
Thank you. Appreciate that intro. Let me just bring up my screen here and get right into it. So thanks again for having us. Really appreciate it. Again, as mentioned, Brian Donnelly, Senior Director of Product Marketing at LivePerson. My job, I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of brands to drive really new and innovative customer experience as teed up right with conversational AI and messaging. So folks get this sort of in an online sense, but what's interesting is it works online and off, and we're going to get into that, and sometimes both. Really, we're always thinking now about, okay, the digital world, the offline world. How do we bridge the gap, right? How do we bring the best of digital into stores and brick and mortar retail and vice versa? And while the focus is on digital, we're going to get into both. So but before we get into it, that's what Tamara Mellon's doing and some of the more interesting things. Let me set a little context on LivePerson and what we do. So in its simplest form, what our mission is to make life easier for people to engage with brands through conversational AI, right? And that might be to buy a product, to seek help, to make changes to an order, or just get some general bit of information from a brand, right? We want to make these experiences as seamless and effortless as possible. And conventional customer engagement is far from effortless, right? Think about like just experiences that you have with brands, right? Calling into a call center, for example, is almost universally disdained, right? If you're a brand, you have to get in touch with a customer. Nobody really picks up inbound calls anymore. I think it takes we've heard like from folks we work with that it takes an average of 7 dials for a brand to get in touch with a person. People don't really respond to email or open email. Emails become a bit of a wasteland. Still effective, right? But a lot of folks in the community probably know Avinash Kaushik, digital marketing sort of luminary. I just read on LinkedIn this week, Avinash cited a report where 84% of email volume is spam, right? So folks are overwhelmed with email. So if you want to get through, email is not exactly the ideal way. But even self-serve digital, right? So think about it, we've been sending customers to websites forever, and we've come to accept really pitiful metrics around the web in general, right? Like, let's start with bounce rate. So 40% is like the average bounce rate across industries. So 40% of people who show up to your site never even do anything, just leave immediately, right? And then if you think about the mobile web specifically, where most of your traffic is, right? Like 60% of online traffic is now mobile. Conversion rates, ultimate conversions, is like 2%, right? So like, website's clearly not serving the needs of the consumer. If only 2% of people who came into a store bought something, store would not be long for this earth. But these are metrics that we've come to accept. And our position at LivePerson is that there's a better way, right? Both by improving your own channels like websites and apps, or leveraging the third-party mobile messengers that customers already use, right, in their personal lives with their friends and families. We aim to build, and we're going to talk about what Tamara Mellon's doing, an asynchronous, persistent, and personalized connection on these channels customers prefer. So asynchronous is key, not session-based, right? Not session-based like a web visit is a single session, a phone call is a single session, even a store visit is a single session. This is continual. You can start a conversation with a brand. A week later, you can resume the conversation. Context is preserved, and you can by nature it's just very personal, right? Which is why people use these communication means in their personal lives now with friends and families more so with phones. Plus, as a brand, once you put yourself in the same app as their friends and family, the connection becomes just more inherently personal, connected, and convenient. Of course, that also adds pressure for the brand to respect that spot in the customer's phone and at the forefront. And you always want to be delivering value. And we're going to talk about what Tamara Mellon does to deliver value in these relationships. We don't want to become another email channel where it's just overwhelmed with spam. And the question we often get is like, okay, that's great, but like I don't have 1,000 agents like waiting to interact with all my customers, right? Or a million agents, depending on the size of my brand. So that's where AI and automation comes in. Automating these conversations via a chatbot, usually with a route to a human agent for complex inquiries. That's exactly what Tamara Mellon does. And we're going to get into it. But what we offer is through our platform, really a single platform to harmonize, to orchestrate these humans and automations, right? Automations or bots, whatever you want to call them, to carry on these customer conversations, right? So we've got a purpose-built conversational AI in there. This is not repurposed from a Watson or a more general bot that can be pointed towards a million different use cases. This is based on our 20 years of conversational transcripts that have fed through our platform, right? And the key there is understanding customer intent when it comes in. And intent is just like, why is the customer reaching out to you? So this also, people might be puzzled by like, how can you understand like automatically what a customer intends to want from your brand? They could be calling about anything, but the truth is they're not calling about anything. If you sell shoes like Tamara Mellon is, they're not calling you with an inquiry about hardware, or they're not calling you with some people call brands for very specific reasons, right? So it's often like 30 to 40 intents. And yes, we train up our machines to understand those intents, respond appropriately with automation, or to route those to a specialized agent for things like retention, like I overheard the subscription story in the prior session. We also have a no-code bot building platform. That's important because you want to be nimble. You want to be able to address consumer needs and to wait for a developer to hard code every bot conversation adds a lot of cycles. And also it's just a layer of specialization that technology today has advanced beyond. So now we have agents in contact centers who are able to, as they monitor, they've moved on from being agents taking calls to being messaging agents, messaging with clients, to now being sort of bot managers, right? So what they're doing is making sure that these bots are delivering to the customer need, they're interceding where appropriate, and they're tuning the bot. So if the bot doesn't recognize the conversation, if it responds inappropriately, now we have agents managing the bots. So another important notion is that what we don't do, we don't replace the humans in this equation, we complement the humans, right? We take some sort of more routine inquiries off the humans' plates. We allow them to be better. We allow them to scale their ability to respond to customers. We reduce things like wait times by allowing bot to immediately respond, right? But the humans are still very much in the loop, part of the value of our platform. And today we work with over 18,000 brands to deliver these kind of business results you see. But if you don't know, I mean, if you have a history with LivePerson, you might associate us with traditional customer care and customer service use cases, right? We started as the web chat bubble on websites 20 years ago. A few years back, we pivoted to messaging, and now we're really increasingly handling more. We used to focus on just this get help bit, right? It was mostly customer service inquiries we were managing, but now we're sort of handling entire customer journeys over messaging. It's a really interesting space. It's, like I said, it's much more personal connection, but you can do everything, as we'll get into in our examples, really from discovery to enabling decisions to re-engaging to payment directly over messaging channels, right? So if you think about like messaging-based marketing campaigns to inspire the next best conversation you could have with the customer based on signals like your digital analytics data or web events. Popular web event for retail is like an abandoned cart, right? So what do? We all know we're all plagued with abandoned carts in this industry. And how do we get those customers back into the fold? We can wait for them to visit, and we can have the item still persisting in their cart. We can send them an email. But with messaging, you can bring them back into the fold with a proactive outbound message on a more visible, immediate channel than email. One of the great things about messaging is open rates are like 98%. Goes right to the top of their phone. Again, with that sort of value comes responsibility not to annoy the customer, right? You want to make sure you're delivering value, so you might send them an offer. Hey, check out, here's 10%. You forgot to check out, or free shipping, or some other value offer. We also have some robust social media capabilities. I'm going to show you some interesting things we're doing on Instagram. One thing is conversational ads. So if you think about a typical Instagram ad, typically you'll just rely on that for awareness. What we can do is customer clicks on the ad, goes right into a conversation with the brand. where you can do things like respond to questions or facilitate a purchase right from the ad, as opposed to clicking through and going to a mobile website or another app to check out. You can go right into a really highly personal conversation. And as I mentioned, even capture payments directly on messaging channels. So that's a good one, because anytime you ask the customer to do something extra, whether it's a channel switch, right? Like, hey, go to this website to fill it to check out on a separate channel, or any sort of extra friction in the process, you risk abandonment, right? So by capturing payments with a click right in the channel, it really increases your conversion rates. And as mentioned before, this can be done with humans or with automations, or fully automated. That is to say, a bot carries through the whole transaction, or as we often see, it goes back and forth depending on the need of the specific engagement between a human and a bot. And those bots really add scale. So, okay, so let's finally get into the Tamara Mellon story. So let me set the stage a little bit. Now, Tamara Mellon was the CEO and co-founder of this brand, and previously, the CEO and co-founder of Tamara Mellon previously founded Jimmy Choo, who most of us have heard of. It's $1 billion footwear brand at this point. But 2 years after Tamara Mellon was founded, they shipped almost as many pairs of shoes to women via their e-commerce model as Jimmy Choo did in the US. Because of this distinct channel advantage, right? They're a direct-to-consumer brand. They make luxury footwear for women, but they don't sell through traditional retail stores, which gives them a big price advantage because they disintermediate the middleman. They also don't design and release products on a typical fashion calendar, right? They don't rely on big seasonal collections that are then shipped off to a retailer, which creates a lag and also creates sort of a backlog of product and sort of an inability to come up with fast-paced sort of consumer taste, right? So, I mean, I'm sure you're aware that trends and fashions and things like that today, discovered every day on Instagram. It just moves really fast, right? And the customer tastes accelerate really fast. And Tamara Mellon realized this early on and began releasing products to meet the demands of the customers. So sometimes even weekly releases. We're talking about very quick turnarounds for product development at Tamara Mellon, and then quick releases to the market because of the direct-to-consumer model. So reasons why they have an advantage to this business model: release schedules, as mentioned, pricing by cutting out the middleman, consumer access, ability to build those relationships direct with consumers, and that's what we're going to focus on mostly today. They create personalized commerce experiences for their consumers using conversational AI and messaging on a few select channels that we'll get into. And it differentiates them from other retailers, both in regard to their customer experience, but again, also a cost advantage. So their conversational journey, as we call it, which is to say to transform from classic sort of self-serve e-commerce into more conversational e-commerce. That's where you're able to interact in natural language and have a route to more directly ask questions and get that sort of white glove service folks expect from a luxury brand. This started with, they launched a really successful post-transaction service early on, 4 years ago, when you bought a pair of shoes. If you got some damage to the shoes, you got a nick on the heel or something like that, you could send them back and they would repair them for free, right? So this was, at the time, this was something that other retailers weren't doing. Customers loved it. Tamara Mellon kind of realized, oh, we do these sort of incremental improvements to CX really just improve our results, right? We've probably heard folks out there who follow Forrester, for example. Forrester will tell you that CX is the new sort of battlefield, right? It's not as much product or price anymore or placement. It's the overall customer experience. The brands that drive the best customer experience end to end will supersede those brands who focus on just a product or just a price, by just adding those little touches that customers like, and will sort of engender affinity in the customer that keeps them coming back. So with the launch of this sort of service, Tamara Mellon realized the power of customer experience and really creating those moments of delight. And in March of 2018, they started investing in conversational commerce as a core part of their strategy. And they built their first bot using our conversation builder tool, which is the point and click interface that kind of makes it easy to build conversational experiences. And it also allows you to build and deploy bots quickly to deliver automated customer service. Now that's important for a startup brand like Tamara Mellon, because it's not like they have a ton of resources, right? So as much as they can continue to maintain their customer experience by being able to answer customer service inquiries promptly via bots, right, and not have to rely on humans to get back to people who just have an FAQ or something like that. So they launched what they called the FemBot around Thanksgiving of 2018. Basic intents at first, and it was the intent of the FemBot again was not to replace their liaisons, which is what they call their client service team, but to augment their liaisons, right? To help their liaisons out, to work with so liaisons could really focus on those higher value conversations where they're helping customers grow what they call the share of closet, right? Tamara Mellon's goal is they want a woman to have a pair of their shoes in her closet for every occasion, right? So the FemBot, in the meantime, while the associates or the liaisons were handling this white glove service, the FemBot would handle basic tasks like order status or shipping details or return requests that were really particularly well suited for automation, and take that off the plate of the liaisons. So they also opened up other channels for their customer to reach them. So people think about messaging, you may think primarily of SMS, but now there's a lot of messaging channels, right? We've seen WhatsApp take off in certain markets for B2C messaging. Apple Business Chat is one that's popular here in the US because most people use iOS interfaces. And iOS is nice, or Apple Business Chat in particular is nice because SMS is a fairly streamlined experience. It's mostly text-based, but with Apple Business Chat, iOS users get a richer experience that offers more features and media capabilities, right? So you can just look in here, you have payment features, you're able to highlight the product. And Tamara Mellon dug into the data and found that 85% of their traffic is mobile and 90% of their customers were on iOS. So they thought, okay, well, this is an obvious choice to build out this Apple Business Chat channel. But they also had SMS as a fallback, right, for those customers for that extra 10% who weren't on an iOS device, right? And they also built out for their website, for the desktop customer, the messaging window, the classic sort of chat window on the website. So then they could cover all their bases for an open and persistent conversation with their customers. And the results have really shown, as up on the screen, that they're doing it right? And since first implementing this strategy in 2018, they've grown, in fact, 130%. So now let's take a look at, just going to go through what the experience looks like here in this video. And we're going to show the FemBot in action and how she drives sales. Honing in particular on an Instagram use case, we're going to show you how Tamara Mellon draws a straight line from impression to purchase. So that Instagram story goes straight into a conversation on Apple Business Chat. The product details from the Instagram story are carried over into messaging. And then we have a product availability bot to handle the first interaction, right? That's a simple sort of FAQ relying on the integration with the backend inventory system. A bot can handle that. But then an example where a conversation gets a bit complex and the bot transfers to a liaison. Being a luxury brand, Tamara Mellon designed this experience purposely as they value their human agents handling high value, sensitive conversations like product recommendations. So the liaison presents some options. The customer picks the shoe she likes from the list of options. And a lot of people don't even realize you can do these kind of rich shopping experience over messaging, but once the selection is made, the agent can go back to transfer back to a checkout bot to complete the transaction, right? And the agent herself can move on to the next customer and handle their needs. So it's no secret really that customers love the FemBot and Tamara Mellon in general. The bot's proven to be really relatable and personable and helpful. And but they've continued to innovate beyond that. So they launched for example, returns are another problem that plagues the industry, right? So what Tamara Mellon did was, and this bridges the offline and the online a bit. So another way to activate a conversation is from a QR code. So they started with a return packing slip in the box. When they send the shoes out, they include a QR code for, hey, any questions or concerns, scan this, have a conversation with customer service. Again, no need to call in. You know, you don't have to call in and wait 20 minutes on Navigate and IVR and wait 20 minutes. Nobody wants to do that anymore. You can just scan the QR code. You can throw us in a message, and you can have a messaging conversation with a Tamara Mellon bot or associate, and you can talk through your return or get suggestions on exchanges, right? And immediately within 30 days, they saw a 10% decrease in returns for a full refund with this QR code program on the return slips. So further towards sort of bridging those in-store and online experiences, this was a cool experience. They built physical experience at a mall in Long Island, and they basically they call it Tamara Mellon's Mobile Closet, right? So customers come in, they can scan a QR. They look at shoes as you see here, and if they're interested, they can scan a QR code in the bottom of the shoe. There's liaisons in store. There's liaisons available online on messaging. But if they want to make a purchase, they can scan a QR code. They can have a special size shipped to them. They can make the purchase through Apple Business Chat, specifically on the over the mobile channel. And then even if they're just they're interested, they want to think about it and pick up the conversation later. Again, you've started that conversation in the store. You can continue it later. So next, they're not stopping here. They're going to launch functionality that allows them to proactively engage those messaging-based marketing campaigns. So not just wait for a customer to reach out to the brand, but you can proactively ping your customers on SMS with offers or order status updates or anything else. And the sort of key part is there's nothing new about SMS marketing, but this one it's two-way, right? So you're not saying, hey, if you have a question, call into this number or go to this URL. You're saying, you can just engage us right here. You can reply to this message we're sending you, and we can have a conversation and resolve any problem or get you any new product you want. And what's particularly nice about that too is, you're again making that experience conversational, not relying on a channel switch to a website or something like that. And you'll, of course, as with any outbound marketing, you do want to keep in mind that to make sure you're offering value, right? To make sure you have customer consent, you're offering them that value in that conversation. So lastly, let me leave you with a quote from Tamara Mellon's CEO, Jill Layfield. So if you ask Jill, what are you solving for, as she was asked once at an event, her response was, we're solving for, from an experience perspective and a brand perspective, that luxury brands have traditionally, and the big ones still today, are opaque and monologues. We're aiming to be the opposite, and that is transparent and conversational with their customer. And this sentiment is very much rooted in how Tamara Mellon thinks about service, and specifically ensuring that VIP service for all their customers. So I'll challenge you all in the room to think about how messaging powered by conversational AI can fit into your strategy. Or just in general, just think about how you can differentiate your brand through these personalized and captivating customer experiences, right? You're not going to beat the Amazons of the world on price or product diversity or shipping speed or anything like that. You have to beat them. You have to beat them through customer experiences that are unique and that are personalized to the segment that you're marketing to. And of course, if you need a little help brainstorming, we're available at LivePerson to help you think about it. So with that, I don't know. I think we have a little bit of time if there's any questions that come up.
Yeah, Brian, we have a couple of questions from the attendees. The first one being, what are some best practices for making AI chat and messaging feel authentic?
Yeah, so if it's AI, well, first of all, like a common problem is folks will not be upfront that it's a bot, right? So we always counsel our clients to just be clear that the customer is talking to a bot. We're not quite, folks will, if they get into any level of depth, they might find out and they might be disappointed that they thought they were talking to a human. So we want to stem that ahead of time. So one is just like make sure that you're upfront about that the consumer is talking to a bot and that they have a route to an agent if they need one. And with that, to personalize it, I mean, our customers work with their creative agencies. We had a hotel in Vegas who created a highly personalized bot that was sort of a virtual concierge to give the bot a personality. Otherwise, there's a whole slew of best practices. we have a sort of conversational design best practices expert guide. But if you think about it as like web design and everything that goes into that, we've realized over the course of doing this for years and years, some best practices, such as, don't immediately, an example would be, this is not one of the things was we had agents who were formerly phone agents who then got into messaging. It's you don't immediately trigger a message back and forth for every customer inbound inquiry, right? You put a little lag in between that. Try to mimic the natural ebbs and flows of a conversation, or else you're going to put the customers off. But really, there's an art to it. But the best part is with like a low code bot building platform, you get to really play with your bots, right? They're not locked in once they're there. You realize how a bot is performing, and then you get to make little tweaks to incrementally improve the experience along the way.
Absolutely. So you touched on it a little bit, this constant innovation, and you mentioned LivePerson's been around for quite some time. So over the past 20 years, what are some big innovations, or how has the technology evolved in this space from when chat first launched online 20 plus years ago?
I think two of the innovations that are sort of things that we covered are, one is automation, right? Chat used to be always person to person, someone at the brand and someone at the and then the consumer. With automation, we're really able to boast a better consumer experience, and it's more cost efficient, right? Because you don't have agents wasting their time answering FAQs, or just responding to when you can have a bot do simple FAQs or do things like data capture. So it's cost efficient, and then the customer gets an immediate response to whatever their inquiries is. Another one is the use of more channels than messaging. For a long time, it was just that bubble on the website. But the notion of many marketers today is to think in terms of, meet the customers where they are. I mean, that's always been sort of a marketing axiom. And customers aren't necessarily on your website, right? They don't want to download your app necessarily. What they are on is Facebook. They are on their iOS Messenger. They are on SMS. So we're going out and meeting them where they are, and not waiting for them to come onto one of our properties.
Awesome. You teed the next question from the crowd up perfectly. So someone asked, can LivePerson's AI tool support social engagement, and how so?
Yes, social engagement via both public and private channels. So we can do direct engagement on private channels, and we can also allow for sort of broadly on public channels monitoring and responding to those public comments. So one of the things we often one of the particular values of our platform in the social realm is kind of straddling the line between public and private. If you put up a post, a customer responds to the post with an inquiry, comments on it. It might be a complaint about your brand. Frankly, it might be a purchase intent. It might be, oh, where can I buy this? You can quickly kind of divert the complaints into a private channel and handle them in an automated fashion or via an agent, because as we know, social is a very public channel. You don't always want the dirty laundry being aired out there. Or you can, with our monitoring, you kind of pick up on these intents and then route folks to the best way. So if it's a sales intent, if they're asking about a product, then you can perhaps choose to respond to that publicly, or you can move them into a sort of messaging experience, right? Like over a Facebook Messenger, where they can have a shopping back and forth on product selection, similar to what you saw with Tamara Mellon on ABC. We can do something similar to that on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, or increasingly Instagram Direct just opened a business API. So the social world, really the sort of, as we know, the social world is becoming more sort of B2C friendly, and they're rethinking it. They're pushing these messaging channels for B2C. So if you don't have a strategy, I guess, for direct social and you're only focused on public social, that's something you might want to talk to us about, because increasingly customers and brands are taking those conversations into direct channels.
Fantastic. I think we're at time. I know there was a couple questions that we didn't get to, and most of them kind of being about the future, which I know we could talk about forever. So we'll handle those offline, and we'll pass it back over to the moderator. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Brian and Morgan. I thought it was really interesting how you said one of the practices is to feel more human-like, to have the AI have a lag with the response. And I was like, oh, that's like dating in the beginning. You have to wait the appropriate amount of time. But it was very interesting, such a fascinating conversation. And Rob, the CEO, is also really fun to follow on Instagram. So we're so excited to have you. Always exciting talking about the future, which is sort of the present day now.